OTC Fit Life. All right, it's Terry. So today we're going to do something, it's not really complicated. It's just good home down cooking. I guess home style cooking. We're doing spaghetti and meatballs. Now I know it's easy just to throw some meat in a pot and then pour a jar of spaghetti sauce in there. We've all done that. I've done that. But we're going to make a really flavorful sauce to go with a nice meatball. We're going to take out some of those preservatives and the sugar and everything that you find in the canned sauces. We're also going to make our meatballs a little bit healthier, and I'm going to show you how to add a secret ingredient that's really going to keep them moist. These meatballs would also be good if you wanted to just put them in a gravy or serve them like that instead of the spaghetti sauce. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to take 3 good pieces of white bread, and I am going to tear these up into pieces here. And you really don't have to be particular about your white bread. I wouldn't use wheat bread. I think white's the best for this. And this is going to be our binder in our meatballs. And I prefer this over breadcrumbs or anything. All right, so I've got my bread torn apart. Next, I'm taking some milk, and I'm going to pour some milk in there. This was almost 3/4 cup of milk, and that's going in there, and I'm going to let this set and just kind of absorb that. All right, so that, as you can see, is our bread. 3 pieces of bread and 3/4 cup of milk, and we're just going to let that soak up the milk. We really want it to get soft. We're going to put that to the side. I'm going to put my bread to the side. And then next I'm going to take my spices here. So I'm going to be flavoring my meat here with some spices. So I have some dried oregano, dried fennel seeds, and dried rosemary. Now, I want to crush these up because I really want to make smaller pieces of the rosemary and the fennel. And when you crush your fennel, you're releasing those oils that help flavor the meat. So there are aromatics in there. So we're just going to put those in there. And this is my mortar and pestle here. And I'm just going to give this a crush. Run this around a little bit. We want to blend everything together and crush it up. Now, when I'm doing my meatballs, I like to shape my meatballs out and then bake them in the oven. And then I'll put them in my sauce and let them cook together in the sauce. Now, you can throw the raw meatball in the sauce. Some people like that, but I personally like to bake them in the oven. That way, if I wanted to put them in the freezer for later, I can, or I can put them right in the sauce. All right, so we have crushed our dried herbs, and that is going to the side. All right, next I'm getting my meat. So I have some ground beef. This is 93% lean, 7% fat. You want a little bit of fat, really, because you want to add some flavor to it. So a little bit's not bad. And then next I'm adding ground turkey. I have used ground pork before, and that's really nice as well, but we're trying to cut back a little bit on the calories and the fat, so I'm using the ground turkey. All right, next I am pouring my dried herbs in there, and then I'm going to put in some salt. All right, next I've got half of a yellow onion here that I have put in my food processor. And it's a really fine mess here. It's not like diced or chopped or anything like that. We want it to be fine. We don't want to have those big pieces of onion sticking in our meatballs. So it's been put in the food processor, and we're going to add that. This is half. All right, and you want to mix your meatballs up. These are really good to do on the weekend. You can cook these ahead of time and then just warm them up during the week. It's really up to you. Like I said, we're really making this a healthy meatball. Less fat, more flavor to it. And I do like combining the meats. You still have that nice beef flavor to it, but without all those calories and the fat. You can smell the onions in here. And you just want to incorporate all those products. You want to make sure the bread is incorporated well in this. All right, looks pretty good. So you can see we've got all the meat incorporated and we've got our spices in there as well. Okay. Now, next I'm going to take my baking sheet and I've already prepared it. I've sprayed it. I've got some aluminum foil down and I've sprayed it with some non-cooking spray to keep the meatballs from sticking. I'm using my small ice cream scoop. I use it to do cookie dough, and if I'm scooping muffins or something like that, it makes it all uniform. So I'm using this to get the same size meatballs. I know people roll their meatballs out. I'm like, you gotta scoop, it does the same thing. So I'm not really that particular about that. Now my oven is preheated to 375. So we're gonna bake these for about 20 minutes. They don't have to be completely done because you are going to be putting them in the sauce, so they will finish cooking in the sauce. And I'm one of those, if I'm having a meatball, I like a meatball. I like to be able to find what I'm eating, and I don't want something really small. I like a nice sized meatball. So I figure about 3 or 4 person would be nice. Now again, because you are using minimal ingredients, make sure you use the best possible ingredients. If you have a chance to go for that better quality canned tomato, I would do that. Your fresh herbs if possible. Just, whatever you can make stand out. Doesn't mean you have to go overboard and buy like top quality beef, but you just want to make sure that you get good ingredients here. Almost done. Few more in there. As you can see, they're all about the same size. Which means they're all going to cook at the same rate, which is really what we want. We want them all to cook at the same rate. If we don't have uniform size, then everything's going to end up kind of cooking at a different rate. And so you might have something that's overcooked and then another piece that is undercooked. So, all right, so there you can see our meatballs on there. Now that's our ground meat. I have ground turkey, the 3 pieces of white bread that I tore apart and I soaked in about 3/4 cup of milk. And we had our aromatics that I crushed up together, and then half of an onion that I put through a food processor until it was nice and fine. So these are going to go in a 375 oven for about 20 minutes, and then I'll make the sauce and put them together and let them cook for a little bit so they can marry those flavors. So I'll put these in the oven. All right, so those are going to cook. Check back and we'll start our spaghetti sauce. and we'll focus on our tomatoes and talk about those. And I'll see you in about 20 minutes. All right, welcome back. So we've cooked our meatballs over here. And as you can see, there's really not a lot of fat on the pan here. We've got some of the juice from the meatball, but really not much fat on the pan. So now we do the meatball test to see if it's good, and have your significant other taste it and see. If you get the thumbs up, then, oh, must have been good. Awesome. All right, so in my nice pot here, I have some olive oil that I've heated up. And then here I have half of the onion that I put in the food processor. I also threw in about 4 cloves of garlic because I figured why chop it, just throw it in with the onion. That way everything is done. So this is gonna go in here. Now this is not going to be a chunky spaghetti sauce. This isn't the meatballs. This is going to be a little smooth. It's not going to have like really big pieces of tomato in it. If you're that kind of person, that's fine. Then don't puree the onions or put them in a food processor, just chop them in. I'm just going to cook these down for just a minute. And we're going to add a little bit of salt to it. And this is just going to help release some of that moisture in those onions. Soften them up. Now next I'm going to add my aromatics, my dry aromatics. So this is rosemary and that's oregano. Now we've talked about this before, that when our herbs are dry, you want to add them like at the beginning part of your cooking stage. If they're fresh, then you're going to add them towards the end. Because these are dry, they're going in at the beginning with these. And that's just going to cook in there. And I can really smell that onion and garlic in there, and the rosemary come to life. Smells really nice. All right. So next I'm going to add a can of my crushed tomatoes. Now this is a little bit more than what your traditional, or your, I wouldn't say traditional, but the other canned tomato stuff that you can find. I'm not going to say the brand. These are a little bit more, but this is a better quality tomato, I feel like. But if you want to go with your other brand, that's perfectly fine. If I have these, then I'll get these. They're available. So that's going in. And then next I have some crushed tomatoes as well. Smaller can. And those are fire roasted. You can get regular if you want. All right, one of my secret ingredients that I love to have on hand is this nice tube of tomato paste. It's concentrated, so it's not like the can of tomato paste that you would get. This is concentrated, so you don't have to add quite as much as you would if you had a can, because it's got that really nice, deep, rich flavor to it. So I like to throw in about a good tablespoon or so. 2 tablespoons. Sounds good. And this will go back, this will go in the refrigerator after it's open. All right, so we're gonna let that cook for just a minute. Now you can see it's got the fire roasted tomato skin in there, so you see that little fleck in there. And then you've got your herbs, and it's not really that chunky. It's not completely creamy either. It's just got a nice, really fine texture to it. All right, so I'm gonna add fresh basil. So this has been chiffonade, mean we've rolled it up and we've kind of cut it into slices. And then from there, I've diced it up a little bit more. But we're going to put that in there. Now, let's see if I can reach it. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to add about a cup of red wine to this, and it's just going to give it I guess, a hearty flavor to it. Since we're going to be cooking it for a while, we're going to be cooking out a lot of the alcohol flavor in this. And like I said, if you're going to use any kind of wine in your cooking or alcohol, make sure it's something that you would drink. Don't go for the cheap bottles that say cooking wine because that's nothing that you would drink. It's not good quality. So stay with something that you would drink. All right, so there's our tomato sauce. Now, next we're going to add our meatballs. And these are going to be great tomorrow. Any leftovers, if there are, will be wonderful for lunch tomorrow. All right, there we go. So there you can see we've got our meatballs in our spaghetti sauce. And we're just going to kind of submerge those a little bit. We don't want to be too rough with the sauce because we don't want our meatballs to fall apart. So we're going to put them on a low simmer, and I'm going to simmer this for about probably about 30-40 minutes because I really want these flavors to come together and for the meatball to pick up some of those flavors. All right, let's see how we're doing. Let's see if we need anything else before we cover it up. Nope, that's good. All right, so we're gonna let this sit for about 30-40 minutes, cook on low, and then we'll come back and we will plate our spaghetti and meatball dinner. All right, welcome back. So we've cooked our spaghetti noodles, and you want to make sure you cook them till they're al dente, meaning just a little bit of a bite to it, but not so soft that they fall apart. We've drained that, and you can see I've got this in the bowl, and next we're going to top it with some meatballs. And a little bit of sauce. And then, of course, we've got to finish it off. So some fresh basil. And then a nice quality cheese over the top as well. This is a Parmesan cheese. And I like it better than the bottled stuff, of course. You want to go for good quality here. It's going to give you the best flavor. All right, there you go. You have your homemade spaghetti and meatballs, and these meatballs are lower in fat. Your spaghetti sauce is made from scratch, no preservatives, no sugar in it, no high fructose corn syrup, which is what you want to avoid. So, hope you enjoy the dish, and thank you for eating with me today, and hope to see you soon. Ciao.